Hello, Matujime, and you're watching Hornbill TV's newsroom. The State Cabinet has decided to implement the Inner Line Permit ILP in Newland, Chumakedima and Dimapur, with Dimapur being divided into 3 categories for this purpose. At a press conference held at Secretariat in Kohima yesterday, government spokesperson Temjinim Nalung and CL John provided updates on the recent cabinet decisions, emphasizing the ILP implementation in these 3 districts. This decision follows demands from various groups amid reports of an influx of people from neighboring Bangladesh. Im Nalong highlighted the importance of the ILP in safeguarding the rights and identities of the indigenous population. The introduction of the ILP in these regions is vital for better regulation of migrants and addressing long-standing concerns about preserving our cultural heritage and demographic balance. He stated, for about 20 years, civil society organizations in Nagaland have been advocating for the implementation of ILP. To discuss this development further, we have our associate editor Al Muli with us in our newsroom today. Hello Al, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you Atu for having me.
Okay Al, so this topic is something that we have been discussing for quite some time now. Of course, civil society organizations, they have been demanding it for 20 years and we just started, but we have been discussing about this topic for quite a while, and it has been yesterday, I think it would have been quite a happy day for a lot of people. So could you tell us more about, also since you're also quite active on social media, and you tell us about the reactions that maybe well-known people or people from Nagaland have their views on this implementation. What has been the reaction like so far?
Yeah, Atu, for most organizations that have been demanding that the ILP system in Nagaland be implemented, it's a happy day. However, there is always this word of caution and also a level of cynicism involved in this. You have a lot of major organizations and their leaders, you have community peoples, all saying that the decision that the government of Nagaland has taken is much welcomed, and at least we got the decision. Now the cynicism that is coming from the people, as far as my interaction with people go, is that whether the government will really be, seriously be, strictly be implementing ILP. Because see, Atu, the ILP has been in place, or theoretically, since 1873. Decades and years and ages before our grandfathers were there. So it is by the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulations 1873. So technically, on paper, the ILP should be across the state of Nagaland, because during 1873 when the regulations were issued, there was no Nagaland, but it was considered for the entire indigenous regions of the Naga Hill, which we are now Nagaland. So it has been there for a long time, and students organizations, especially the Naga Students Federations, from the 80s have been demanding that the ILP should be implemented strictly, not just implemented on paper, but strictly implemented. So by the way the conversations have been going on social media at this time too, they're happy, yes, but they are now wondering if the government will actually implement it in both letter and spirit, and implement it on the ground with cooperation from the community organization. They are just watching whether this will be just another diversionary eyewash. So let's wait and see.
I also want to know, when it comes to ILP, it's there in the foothill areas, I mean the hilly areas, when it comes to places like Mukokchung and places like that. So how effective has it been so far?
I keep saying this, and I'll keep saying this for the next 300 years, Atu. What the Ao Students Union in Moshong, the AKM did in Moshong, was not only admirable, it was exemplary, and I think Naga organizations across the state of Nagaland should take up what they did. They should follow in their footsteps. The work of the AKM ensured that the influx of non-locals and particular to those who are in the category of illegal immigrants, was stopped. When the our students took up this initiative way back in the middle 2000s, nobody would have thought that the drive against illegal immigration towards the Moguchun side would be successful, because during the time illegal immigrants was like as common as the potholes that we have in the state now, and they were very successful. So I think what we can gather from here is that while there were certain areas, for instance Zinepoto areas, interior areas, Woka areas, and even to some level Kohima areas, the influx of illegal immigrants was not as much as it was being seen in the border areas such as Dimapur and Mon district. So these were areas where the ILP lacked its reach. So now the government has decided that we are going to go ahead with the ILP in these areas. I think it will only be from now on that we will be able to measure the success of the ILP, but generally in the remote areas the influx wasn't that much, so I think there was not much concern even from the government side or the community organizations in regard to whether we should bring in the system or not.
So I'm pretty aware that people are people know much about what inner line permit is and also why is it important, but could you also, for the viewers to understand more about this, the importance of this when it comes to our land, why inner line permit is required in Nagaland, why Nagaland needs to seriously and strictly implement it? Could you please elaborate more on that, please?
Yeah, it's complex, Atu. It's a very complex issues that draws from different elements, a wide array of elements, and its impact is felt only by the indigenous populations. So people say, oh, politically this is not good for us, culturally it affects us this and that way, but I'll try to make a few things very specific here, the very specifics of how illegal immigration affects us adversely. First thing, recently one of the Naga tribal organizations issued a statement saying from now on our community will not recognize people who marry into this and that non-local categories. So the reason was that these people were taking on Naga names and Naga identities. So that is one of the most primary and fundamental gates to that is open to illegal immigrants to come and appropriate our culture and the benefits of being an indigenous people. They come in to exploit that wealth, so they change their names and identities, and suddenly before we know it, they are now Naga people. They have right to land, they have right to family property, they have right to all legal benefits that is given to a proper citizen who has the identity of an indigenous person in the eyes of the Constitution. That is one. So when we talk of exploiting indigenous wealth, taking a Naga name is one of them, taking your property is one of them, but I think the most damaging aspect of this is the impact on the economic life of the community. I think it was way back 1998 or 2008, I have forgotten. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Naga Students Federation. One of the complaints that they had why the ILP should be regulated, not implemented, was this. If you chase away all the non-locals in Nagaland,
right,
if you stop giving ILP to non-locals coming into Nagaland, who's going to build your house? Who's going to build your roads now? Who will do all this labor work that no Naga youth wants to do? So that was the concern. So instead of saying full implementation and enforcement, the idea was regulate it, meaning don't close it off completely, but just make sure that the people coming in are skilled. They are quality immigrants. So the impact right now we see here, because we don't have proper implementation of the ILP, is that the jobs that which people can do, our people can do, our youth can do, have all been appropriated by people from outside the state, which is not a bad thing if they're skilled, if they are what you call in Europe quality immigrants, people who can contribute to the society, to nation building, and to adding to the culture of our state here. But that is not the case. We have all these people coming in, you don't know their history. Recently, 2 of the accused persons from Assam who were accused in the gang rape case, they were found in Nagaland. So we have got thousands of people here whose history we don't know. They could be running from the law, they could have stolen something from their state, and now they're hiding from the law in Nagaland. They could have murdered someone. They could be serial killers, we don't know.
Yeah.
My point is, we don't know their history, so we need to also look at how these people change the character of our society, and they also change the character of our economic personality, our livelihoods, the local economy. So those are some of the impacts that we need to study before just trying to please the public. You say, okay, we're going to implement ILP from now on. That is not enough.
Right.
We need to study the ILP a little more and try to refine it in such a way that we have not only a mechanism, we have a stronger mechanism that will actually ensure that the full purpose of the ILP is fulfilled.
Right. Also, moving on, like you all know, yesterday, Minister Temjin Imnalung and Sel John also, they gave a press conference about it, and they mentioned about 3 categories when it comes to ILP in Dimapur.
Right,
so what are the 3 categories, and why should it be different from normal categories of ILP? I think for the viewers also who missed out on the news, it will be educational for them also. So could you please elaborate more on that?
Yeah, when the minister spoke about categories, I was thinking, I think we are trying to frame our immigration mechanism based on the system they have in Europe. For example, you don't just let everyone in, like we talked about a little while ago about quality immigrants, people who can come in with skills and can build a society and contribute to the local industry also. So I was thinking, when I was reading through the script, I was reading expecting something like that, but the category that the government of Nagaland has decided on is totally different. It's just a birth demographic category. So they didn't explain it much, but I got this from the government. So these are the 3 categories, Atu.
Right.
So I don't know how this will help, but this is what the government has decided. So the first category includes individuals who settled in Dimapur before December 1st, 1963. That was before Nagaland got full statehood. So the first category, people who were settled in Dimapur before December 1, 1963, will not require an ILP. You don't need an ILP, and you will be given a smart card as well as options to obtain permanent residence certificates and domicile certificate. So this is basically saying you're indigenous to Nagaland. So if you and your family were here before December 1st, 1963, then you don't need an ILP, you're basically a full citizen of the state of Nagaland. Now, category 2, this is also again a little bit confusing, because this group also does not need an ILP. Second category are for people who settled in who settled in Nagaland before December 1st, 1963 to November 21st, 1979. So you don't need an ILP. It's the same thing as first category too.
Right.
So I don't know. So yeah, you don't need an ILP, so you can obtain a domicile certificate. So I don't know why they made it into 2 categories here. The only difference is category 3. Now for people who settled in Dimapur on or after November 22nd, 1979, you need an ILP to stay in Dimapur. So this will include your descendants, your family members. If you were here on or after 1979, November 22nd, then you need an ILP. So these are the 3 categories. I don't know, it's confusing. So yeah, so those are the 3 categories that the government has stated for the ILP, especially for Dimapur.
And also, we got to know that the government is also trying to digitalize it when it comes to ILP. And as you said, there are different types of immigrants also when it comes to Nagaland. And people, what we know is that people come here to seek for jobs that we don't do, and we cannot deny that. And so to understand that everybody, they do not have an access to know about what comes in the digital world, how to do it. Do you think it will be successful when they digitize all of it, or how will it go? Can you give us a overview on that as well?
I think it's a good thing that we have computerized everything, and every information about the ILP will be digital. But good luck with all these people coming in from all these forests, from God knows where, and trying to log into the internet and filing up their forms. So this will only be for people who knows how to use computers, who have a higher level of education in this regard too. So for the rest of the people coming in, yeah, good luck. But that said, I think I will refer to people who can actually contribute to the state.
Right.
What we need is, of course, a strong enforcement mechanism for the state of Nagaland to ensure that the ILP fulfills its purpose. But second, I think we need to work out a little bit, because whether you like it or not, ILP is still going to be issued to a lot of random people too. Yeah. So why not make something in the way of what Canada has, what Europe has, what United Kingdom has. Canada has what you call the Federal Express system. The Federal Express system is a permit for international people who wants to work in Canada. And these are people who are not just immigrants looking for a better life somewhere. They're very highly skilled professionals in various industries. So they select only the best ones, people who can actually bring some kind of an input that will add to the capital of the country. So we need something like that even in the ILP too. So if we are going to bring in each and any random person coming from God knows where into the state through the ILP and giving them the permits, then why not we just modify the ILP a little bit to an extent where we get quality immigrants. And in regard to the categories here, whether you're skilled or not, you're still going to stay if you were here before December 1st, 1963 or November 22nd, 1979. So I think we need a lot more change in this regard, because this is too simplistic and it doesn't really address some of the core loopholes in the state of Nagaland in regard to the ILP too.
Right. According to the press conference yesterday, the ILP was implemented to safeguard the rights of the indigenous people, and also we know we can speak about. We have been talking about the influx of illegal immigrants from Bangladesh also, and also maybe other parts of the country, and other parts of the country also. When it comes to checking all this influx. There were also news that some of the illegal immigrants were caught, and that was maybe by road. But the most important thing that we have to talk about is now is the railway stations, and we have seen viral videos of non-locals thronging the railway stations. So looking at that, do you think all of this would be possible, taking that as an example? Because it's very difficult. Dimapur is a commercial hub. Even if you check the railway stations, so is there any way that we can keep a check on this?
Yeah, Earlier we were talking about the cynicism of the people in regard to whether the government will truly, sincerely and strictly implement ILP. I think the cynicisms are from a place of the realities that we see today. We have been talking about ILP, but we don't have a dedicated immigration cell.
Right.
We have checkposts, but they don't check your eligibility to stay in the state. They check only your identity. So there is no meaning to it. So if the government really wants to implement this, I think we need a dedicated cell in the administration that will take care entirely of immigration issues here. We need checkposts in all the transit systems. For instance, the railway station. The reason people from God knows where came into Nagaland just like that, as the viral video showed earlier, was because there was nobody to stop them. There was nobody asking them if you are eligible to be in the state or not. You just look at the Aadhaar card, or there's a face and a name, so you enter. No purpose. There's no ILP. There's no ILP helping the case if people who should be taking care of all these issues are not there. So we need dedicated cells and departments in this regard. We need to allocate resources. We need to get in more personnel who will be dedicated to only this particular task of checking illegal immigrants. And second, we need to set up cells and what you call scrutiny cells in all the communities, the locals, and colonies, the villages in Dimapur or anywhere else where ILP is in place, because these will provide an additional level of defense, an additional level of filter to filter out people who might have gone through the ILP check gates. So we need these two, and we need detention centers too. I am told that the government of Nagaland used to have a detention center at Nagarjan. But now it has been turned into a petrol pump. And there is also an NAP post, I think, IRB post, something. So that's our state. So we need to get the infrastructure ready to be able to hold off any kind of offsetting from the illegal immigrants that might come in. Second, we need dedicated personnel. We need stringent checking at all levels, from the transit points to the villages and to the colonies, where the community also has a role in this. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem for all of us, just like Tripura.
Also, we've spoken about the three categories that it's divided into, and when it comes to PRC now, do you think the Gangburas and the chairmen of the colonies here in Dimapur also, they'll have a lot of responsibility now, considering how it was later on, now that the ILP is also, I mean, they should have had the responsibility from the very beginning, of course, but do you think it would be, they will have like more responsibilities on checking on this also?
Technically, they are the ones responsible for giving out all these residency certificates to people we don't know who they are from. Right. And in fact, way back 2015, there was a big controversy. I think it was in the BWD or the landmark area. So someone a non-local who was engaged in a criminal activity, I think, was caught, and investigations led to, I think it was a GB, if I'm not mistaken, GB or a village chairman, and this person had issued a no objection certificate for residency in that area. Mm-hmm. So definitely you are right. We should also check the GBs. They're going to get more responsibilities to ensure that people who should not be here should not be here. There should be an accountability mechanism where they are also prosecuted if there is any violation in the ILB regulations. So they should be given a lot more responsibility, because the GBs and the village chairman, colony chairman are the ones who are always connected with the people. So they know what is going on. They know the sight and sounds of the community. Right. So they should actually be the touch point in all the villages and the colonies, give them responsibility, but also the government needs to have a mechanism where they also bring to account GBs or village chairmen or community leaders who do not perform or who are responsible for letting in people who should not have been here in the first place or two.
Right, I think we have a lot more to discuss, but I think we should end this. But so lastly, I want to ask you this. Can you tell us more about what are some of the loopholes in the ILP mechanism, even if it is implemented? We have been discussing about it, but could you briefly just tell us more about it?
Okay, first thing, I'll just make it short. I'll fly through this. First things, I think we should now scrutinize the reasons why they are here. Right. The reason that people come in, non-locals and illegal immigrants come in, is because we need labor. They're mostly for the unorganized labor sectors in the industry in Nagaland, construction workers, road workers. So we need to, I think, set up a mechanism where we get in a lot of quality immigrants here too. And second, we should also cross-check the permission that is given by guarantors. And these guarantors are the ones responsible for bringing them in. We need to know why they bring them in, and we also need to get a little higher level, people who are in the higher levels of the state administrative hierarchy, to be able to keep a check on all this, especially the guarantors, GPs, house owners, anyone can bring that in. So this is one of the loopholes. And also corruption. I have seen with my eyes, actually there are people who have given ILP for money. So corruption should also be checked right. at the administrative level. So these are not new stuff. I have not given money myself, but I think this is a very common story everywhere. So these are some of the loopholes. And three. Once an illegal immigrant comes in, who keeps a check on them? We don't know whether after reaching Dimapur they'll go to Mon district or Kohima from here, and they'll disappear forever. So how do we find them? Mm-hmm.
That's a very good question now. I mean, I'd want to ask the last question also. I want to ask one more question. Okay. Mm-hmm. How important do you think, considering the fact that there were civil society organizations that were very vocal about this for the past few weeks, and then do you think it has pushed the government to take this important decision also, and how important is it for the government to work with the community that the ILP is successful, and that includes the civil society organizations and all of us?
By examining what we have been experiencing during the past 20 to 30 years, I don't think the government has really been working with a community in this regard, because right. if it were working with a community in regard to implementation of the ILP in Nagaland, then the community organizations wouldn't have been demanding that the ILP be implemented too.
Right.
As simple as that. So I don't think they've been working with a community. It is very important for the government to engage the public through their local leaderships, because if the ILP is to be successful, then the groundwork at the community level should be successful first. If it is not successful at the local level, the ILP is nothing. It will be just another nice sounding mechanism for the government of Nagaland to say that we are protecting the culture of the people. So they should go to the, in fact, community organizations first, come up with a plan, a roadmap, if you will, and with that, move forward. And hopefully, if there is some kind of a cooperation between the government and the community, we will see some changes in the economic and the social and cultural character of the state of Nagaland and its people too.
Right. Thank you so much for your inputs. I think that's about all for today. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me too.
Okay, that was our associate editor Almuli joining us from the newsroom, discussing about the recent enforcement of ILP in this the districts of Chumu, Newland, and Dimapur. So all we have to wait and see how this works out. But I think it is a bit of fresh air for all of us that after so long, after demanding it for after the demand of civil society organizations and the public for so long, it has been enforced finally. So that's all about now. We'll get to see more about it later. That's all we have for now. Keep watching Hornbill TV.